The College Baseball Experience's special bonus college softball tournament preview for 2025 on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Edge Boost, the bank account built for bettors. Sign up today at edgeboost.bet, promo code SGPN, and get a $25 match deposit bonus. And we're also brought to you by Naira Bets. Claim your $200 deposit match bonus at nairabets.com/SGPN200, promo code SGPN200. And we are back here on the College Baseball Experience. Myself, Noah Bieniek, and joined alongside my good friend and softball coach, Adam Pelletier. Adam, welcome back into the show. This is the third year we've done this. Always a blast. And I'm very excited for our special guest that we have invited today. Met him in person earlier this season during the college baseball season down in Orlando at a UCF Florida game. We hit it off, and I figured that this connection might come really in handy at the end of the year. And I hit him up, and he was so down to do the show. I welcome on Eric Lopez of D1Softball, the host of In the Circle podcast, and also just expert bracketologist who drilled 64 out of 64 in the field. And he was texting me, just kicking himself how he missed one host. But other than that, outstanding job this time of year. You're basically the Joe Lunardi of college softball. Well done, my friend.
Appreciate that, gentlemen. It's an honor to get to talk to you guys, talk some postseason softball. I enjoy your college baseball coverage. In fact, in support of college baseball, I've got my 2012 Coral Gables regional baseball shirt there, wearing, just an honor to be on. But all great to be on with you guys.
Awesome.
Yeah, we're excited to have you on.
Yeah, Adam, I don't know if you have anything else that you wanted to get off your chest before we started the show, but go ahead. And
Eric made the controversial take of saying Oklahoma was going to make the tournament. So, he prognosticated that correctly. So if you're landing hot takes like that, you're good in my book.
Awesome. Eric, our idea of the show for bringing you on is helping us get the feel of some of these storylines and the regionals. And I know your time is very valuable, and we don't have a ton of it. But I was thinking, let's preview some regional, super regional pictures and kind of hit on some of those storylines. Adam, do you want to begin with that?
Yeah, Eric, first off, starting at the top of the bracket, College Station, Texas A&M taking down the 1 seed this year. Is this a favorable draw for them heading into this? There's some 3 mid-majors, but you have some in Liberty and Morris that have some experience, have some depth in the circle, and are kind of what you look for in an upset team. How's this draw lining up for A&M?
It's interesting. This bracket is one of the more unique ones in my 10-plus years of covering the softball brackets here, in that, for example, like Liberty, I was thinking they were going to bust to a Clemson, Tennessee, a Duke. They didn't go with that. They flew them out there. This Liberty program with Dot Richardson as the head coach has been knocking on the door of a super regional. They were 1 strike, 1 out away a year ago from knocking out Georgia and advancing to their first ever super regional. So they're not going to be – that's not a team to take lightly as a 2 seed. And I think they're undervalued there a little bit. Maris, Joe Asanios, the head coach, they got a great offense. They do a nice job. But I was surprised that A&M got 2 mid-majors, 3 mid-majors in their regional. I think compared to some of the other regionals, I think they take this regional. But I do think a team like Liberty that has the experience can push A&M. And I think A&M, while they look, I have no issues with them being the number 1 seed. Let's see how they handle that with those expectations. A year ago, A&M was the 16 seed. They had no pressure, won the regional, and pushed Texas to the limit in the supers. Now everybody has expectations of them about playing for the national title or bust. And they better not overlook Liberty. I think Liberty in that regional with the experience can push them. But I think A&M clearly, though, compared to some of the other regionals, feels okay about what they drew.
And their super pairing, which is the Eugene regional, we're seeing this a couple of times in this year's bracket. We saw it a lot during the college basketball season as well. With the Pac-12 kind of dissolving, we have some Pac-12 regional matchups. 1 and 2 seed in that Eugene regional is Oregon and Stanford. To me, the Cardinal look like a really big threat to the Ducks there in that regional.
They really are. They're inside the top 16 hosts. What's interesting about Stanford, they were not able to were available to host I believe there's a Coldplay concert going on. I kid you not. This only in softball. Apparently, there's a Coldplay concert taking place or going to take place at the football stadium where softball had to play this year because their softball stadium is being renovated for next year. So they played at the Stanford football stadium. So it was not available. Now, Stanford's the 2 seed, but I do wonder with this, the way the committee did this, could Stanford had hosted, if they were able to host, would they have gotten the nod over Oregon? It seems like a compromise of the 2 teams because Oregon, while they certainly won the Big Ten regular season title, came in limping. They dropped the game to Michigan State, lost to Michigan in the opening round of the Big Ten tournament. And it's a team that I did not have hosting because they had a weak non-conference schedule. I think it was like 156 come Sunday. They played 31 quad 4 games, which are games 101 or worse. And they lost 3 of those games. And yet they get the benefit of the doubt over a team like Virginia Tech hosting. So I wonder maybe part of this package deal was to have Oregon and Stanford paired up. We'll never know. But I agree with you. I think Stanford could push Oregon. You know, they have a great pitcher in Grind, Oregon does, that hasn't, you know, it's got to get back to what her high level that she was pitching earlier in the year. Stanford can hit. Jessica Allister is a great coach. An interesting storyline, not only with the Pac-12 ties, but Jessica Allister used to be an assistant at Oregon. So that's a fascinating little regional that it would not surprise me if Stanford knocked off Oregon and advanced to the Supers.
I mean, anytime you've got a team that hit 94 home runs on the season, 389 RBIs, you know, can Oregon even come close to having the firepower to hang with the Cardinal in an elimination game?
I think they do. It's a contrast of styles. You got Stanford, you highlighted the power. Oregon depends on speed. They got the Luchar sisters who have tremendous speed. I think they're among the nation's best in stolen bases as a team. They set school records. So it's really a contrast of styles. It's Oregon at its speed and trying to attack you on the bases and go short game versus the power of Stanford. I think it's a contrast of matchups, and whichever one executes better will win that.
Going to the 2 versus 15 super regional path, Oklahoma they've won 4 straight national championships. They're the 2 seed this year in the tournament, and they draw the Tuscaloosa super regional partner. Unfortunately, BU gets sent to a regional in the state of Oklahoma. It's like the 4th time in the last 7 tournaments. Just kind of a crazy story. And I know the reaction went viral of BU seeing that they were going back to Oklahoma for a 2nd straight year. To me, that seems like, you know, the committee usually tries to avoid that. And BU being a Northeast team, kind of crazy that they sent them there. But that's a quality program that Oklahoma once again has to deal with. And there's some history there, too, of them struggling with that Terriers team. And then Alabama, they've got a really strong 2 seed in that regional. Is there an upset possibility in Tuscaloosa? Who is the Sooners' biggest threat to keep them out of OKC this year?
That's a great question. Let me say this. I did not know that you can bus from Boston over all the way to Norman, Oklahoma. I didn't know that was a bus trip for regional there.
You can bus anywhere in the country. You can bus anywhere in the state. Let me tell you, I've taken some long bus rides for some playoff games before. You can go wherever, whenever by bus. You may not want to, but you can.
That's a great point.
And they're not busting on the cheese either. So,
well, clearly the committee agrees with you because that's why they're sending Boston all over the place. I think Oklahoma got a very favorable draw to answer your question.
Yeah,
I think Cal is okay. Just Chelsea Spencer's done a nice job. There's a 2 seed. Omaha has a pitcher by the name of Madia Groff that's pretty good. They went to a regional final when she was at Southern Illinois a year ago in Baton Rouge. She transferred to her home state in Omaha in her backyard in Omaha. They'll play well. Boston plays well, but I think Oklahoma's the heavy favorites. And then the Supers, I think Alabama's going to have their hands full with a Virginia Tech team that's mad right now because they felt they should have hosted. So you got them, and then you got Belmont with maybe the best mid-major pitcher out there, Maya Johnson, going for the Belmont Bruins. So I think Alabama's regional is stacked. So I don't know, to answer your question, if there is a team that could stop Oklahoma to getting Oklahoma City, because that Tuscaloosa regional, they're going to beat each other up. Alabama did beat Oklahoma in the regular season 2 out of 3, but that was at the Roadhouse. This is going to be in Love's Field in Oklahoma. So I just think the Sooners are the team to beat. Maybe Virginia Tech with that chip on the shoulder, with the way they can hit, with Pete DeMoore as the head coach and got great players like a McCord, like a McMillan. maybe they're the team that could pull the shocker, beat Alabama, and then maybe knock off Oklahoma. But I would make the Sooners the favorite.
And Eric, my question is, we know Sam Landry's going to get the ball in the most important games. Who's going to be the two that's going to ride for Alabama between Isabel Smith and Kirsten Deal? You've got depth in that pitching staff. Very few teams are 3 deep. Deal or Smith would probably be a 1 for most squads. Who's going to get the ball in that second game when they need it?
That's the biggest question in Norman. Who is that number 2? I think Sam Landry's number 1. You mentioned Deal. She's been up and down. You mentioned, obviously, Bella Smith. I mean, they may go by committee beyond Sam Landry. That's kind of how they've been able to patchwork. It's very unusual to see Oklahoma struggling to get innings outside of their ace. They usually like to build their staff. That's not the case right now. So that's the biggest question. That might prevent Oklahoma from winning the national title if they don't have that answer soon.
I mean, I will say, I think Deal's somebody who really, if she gets back to some of the levels, she can compete at the highest level. She's been doing that for a while. She actually, my last year coaching, she put a stop to our playoff run because we ran into her and she was an absolute buzzsaw just going through our lineup. And you have to just find anything if she's got it going. Granted, that's in high school, but college, same thing. The mental side of things is still there. When she's rolling, she's really hard to beat. She could be a really strong second option for the Sooners and really be that difference maker on elimination day should they get pushed to that second game.
Eric, the next regional, super regionals pairing that I want to talk to you about is what's going on with Gainesville and Durham. There seems like there's a lot of easy storylines to connect between these two supers. Mercer's in their first program NCAA tournament appearance ever. FAU in Florida, same regional, same state, should be some good familiarity between the two rosters. But also, if you look across the bow, you could get one of college sports' best rivalries in Florida versus Georgia in the super regional. Or if chalk holds, there's some family fun between Florida and Duke, right?
Yes, there is. There is, with Marissa Young, the head coach at Duke, and her daughter on the Florida roster. So that's an interesting plot. They played during the regular season. You mentioned Florida and Mercer. Mercer's head coach, Lindsay Fico, played for Tim Walton at Florida in Gainesville in his first year at 06. So it's a bit of a full circle moment. She's done a nice job at Mercer. Then you got Florida Atlantic with Jordan Clark, a rising star as the head coach, back in Gainesville for a second year in a row, back-to-back American Conference champions. I think that's a team that could maybe push Florida a little bit. Georgia Tech, Eileen Morales. Here's a nice fun fact for you. Eileen Morales, a Hall of Fame Georgia Tech player. Her senior year, Georgia Tech went to Gainesville to play in the regionals in 08. She, as head coach, she got Georgia Tech back to the NCAA tournament in 2022, got sent to Gainesville. And here we are 3 years later. She's back in Gainesville with Georgia Tech.
And I think the big question for me, at least in this pairing, Eric, is this Georgia team has kind of transformed this year. They're usually, bashing the ball out of the yard. They're dominant. They're going to strike fear with that lineup. And that's not who they are. They really limped through their SEC slate this year. And now it feels like they're limping into the tournament. I mean, how much of this Georgia getting a 2 seed is just, oh, it's Georgia, it's SEC softball. And as we've seen the parity in the sport grow, are they somebody who you're putting on upset alert against Coastal and against maybe less against Howard, but definitely against Coastal?
I agree. Coastal can beat them. Coastal is one of the better mid-major teams. They just won the Sun Belt tournament. Keep in mind, everything you said about Georgia, you could apply that to the host team too. It's not like Duke came in limping as well. These are two teams that are vulnerable coming in. Georgia's a little bit young, but I do like Coastal to make some noise here, building off that momentum of winning the Sun Belt tournament. This was a team, remembers, in Coastal Carolina with their pitcher Picone that knocked off South Carolina in Columbia in a midweek during the regular season. So they could play. And I definitely think if you're looking at some mid-majors that can make some noise, Coastal Carolina in that regional is a pretty favorable draw, with a Georgia team that's young, that's been scuffling, and a Duke team that's been scuffling out of the ACC.
Now, Eric, this is a little bit of off Noah's script, but I'm going to hijack that. So when are we going to get to a point in college softball where we don't just get the legacy programs getting the automatic hosting, where we look at Duke, we look at Georgia, and we say, y'all don't really deserve this. We need to give this to a Florida Atlantic. We need to give this to no, but I'm being like, maybe not Florida Atlantic, but when do we start to see that come into play where we say, yeah, you don't have it. We're going to give it to the mid-major because they're just better right now.
How much time you got? We could go. We could go on. You just hit the subject with the nerve. It was funny. Nevada head coach Victoria Haywood, who's in her first year as head coach, former Washington Husky great, All-American, spoke about the fact they got left out, and spoke about the fact that it's the same old. There was only one mid-major at-large team to make the tournament, which was FAU. And Jordan Clark, who I interviewed on the D1Softball live show, reaction show, mentioned that they're the only mid-major. And I kept thinking, because I cover softball 100% and everything. I love baseball, college baseball. I follow it. I'm going to be a shill here, but I obviously check out everything D1Baseball.com does, everything you guys do. It's fantastic. Like, I love what you guys are providing for the baseball coverage. And one of the things I respect and admire about college baseball, and I know it's not perfect, because trust me, I watch the selection reaction shows and there's flaws there too. But to your point, it seems to me, guys, and you cover baseball more daily than I do, that the mid-majors get treated better in college baseball than any other sport of the major sports compared to the others. And from a hosting standpoint, as an example, Louisiana, the Raging Cajuns were the last mid-major to host here. They hosted last year. Prior to that, it was UCF out of the American in 2022 that hosted as a mid-major. We don't get a lot of mid-majors in softball for a variety of reasons, and it's actually, I think the gap has widened. And with the stat that I just gave you, I think conference realignment has hurt softball from the mid-major level. Think about it. UCF used to be a mid-major. You can name other teams that are BYU, for example, used to be in the West Coast Conference, used to dominate that league. They would be in the field. They're not in the field as an at-large, but you get my point. That's what's happened. So it is a fantastic question, Adam, and it's a question that a lot of mid-major head coaches are asking about and frustrated with, and I don't have the answer. I don't know if we will see another mid-major host, because you have to jump so many different loops here that the system, we had 8 Big Ten teams make the tournament in softball, and I'm telling you guys, the Big Ten's not that good. It is not that good. It is the 4th best conference.
Weren't there 3 on the bubble, like last 4 in?
3 of the last 4, according to the committee, was in the bubble. Washington, believe Indiana, and Northwestern was the 3 of the last 4. But what the Big Ten has done is they know how to manipulate the archaic RPI system. They talked to Kevin Paga, who is in charge of the KPI. They know, and credit to the coaches, they know how to schedule to manipulate it. Whereas college baseball has adapted. They've adapted they have adjusted to the quad systems to try to help the mid-majors more. We don't do that in softball, and that's disappointing. And I don't know if it's going to get fixed, because what happens is I tend to ramble and yell about it on the podcast, and then people get mad at me like, "Why are you being so mad? This is a great time to be in the sport." So that you're in a two-way situation.
Let me give you a little bit of hope here, Eric. Here's why I think it's going to
use one
around sooner rather than later. When we're talking about sport participation, softball's a growing sport, whereas a lot of women's sports are shrinking. You're seeing less girls playing basketball. You're seeing less girls play lacrosse, but you're seeing more girls play softball. So I think you're going to see more talented athletes in the sport going from high school to college. They're going to be looking for opportunities. If you're in a D1 school, you're going to get opportunities. You're going to get these chances, and you're going to get better players that you're then going to coach up. And there's not that NIL transfer money that you see in softball. And you see young women who decide, I just don't want to be here. They're not sticking around in a place just because it's Oklahoma. They're like, I don't like living in Norman, Oklahoma. I'm going to go back home. I'm going to go to Macon. I'm going to go to Mercer, and I'm going to go to Florida, and I'm going to go back west. So I think there is some hope, because we saw it with James Madison in the 2020s, where they really put a stamp on it because they had a dominant player. A dominant pitcher really can elevate you. And so all the mid-majors need to do is start in the circle and build out. And as you talked about, there are some phenomenal mid-major pitchers right now. So there's hope still, Eric. I think hope springs eternal right now.
I hope you're right. The issue, though, is a lot of what's going on is a lot of the mid-major players then enter the portal to go to a bigger school. We just had one today from Chattanooga, and Peja Gould, who I had on the podcast a couple of weeks ago. She's a great pitcher. She enters the portal. My guess is she'll end up at a Power 4 school. So again, there's the gap. And listen, we do a good job at D1 Softball. We have mid-major rankings and we do awards and stuff for mid-majors. We did know going into the year there would be a bit of a dip in mid-majors just because a lot of teams are young. Like, for example, Louisiana is a team that's been a power in college softball and mid-majors. Well, Jerry Glasgow left to go to Texas Tech. He took a lot of his players followed him. So Louisiana basically was a rebuild this year. They're starting from scratch. So that hurts you as a mid-major because Louisiana used to be is a team that you normally depend on to make the tournament from a mid-major standpoint. So whereas baseball, I don't see that drop off because again, the goal is not, yes, you might transfer, get more playing time and NIL, but you're trying to get to the big leagues. We don't have that in softball per se. I know they're doing a big thing with the Athletes Unlimited, but players are going to still, this is where you're going to probably make, the most money you're ever going to make as a softball player before you get to the real world. So I hope you're right. I do. And in fairness, the mid-majors that are in the field, there's a lot of them won their bids. They took care of business. They weren't upset. So, like, for example, I'll give you an example. Liberty won the CUSA tournament. If they would have lost, they would have been in. So that also plays a factor in the limitations of the mid-majors. But I do hope that we keep them in the mix. But certainly, with the conference realignments, it's getting a bigger challenge for mid-majors.
Yeah. So speaking of the bigger conferences, we'll come down here to SEC country and talk about the Fayetteville Tucson super regional pairing. I mean, you've got a 4-seed Arkansas and you got a 13-seed Arizona, but there's a little bit of challenges there. There's some teams that are maybe threatening, shall we say, to Arkansas, particularly with Oklahoma State and Arizona and even Ole Miss. You got a really loaded, and don't forget about Grand Canyon either. I mean, you got we're starting to get into the meat where this is where anybody feels like they could come out of these regions.
Yeah, let's start with Fayetteville. I mean, Courtney Deifel's done a great job. They're going to have Bree Ellis, who's the National Player of the Year. Has put up monster numbers. But yet they draw Oklahoma State, who's kind of underachieved this year. But that's a team that can get to a super regional with Ruby Malin as their ace pitcher. Kenny Gajewski's the head coach, done a great job there. They have talented players like Harley Godwin, among others, on their offense. If they just haven't clicked, now would be the good time to do that. And then you got an Indiana team that can steal a lot of bases. So that's not an easy regional for Arkansas. St. Louis, the A-10 champion, is the 4 there. And then if Arkansas is able to get through that, potentially they might see Arizona, who basically ended their season last year in the Fayetteville regionals. Arizona got out of the Fayetteville regional last year. And then a few years ago, in Mike Kendrea, the legendary Arizona head coach, when he retired, his last super regional was in Fayetteville when they swept Arkansas to get to the World Series. I believe it was 2019, I want to say, or 2021, actually, 2021. So Arizona's been a nemesis of Arkansas. So the Razorbacks didn't get a great draw. It's almost like they got to go through some nemesis and some ghosts to get through and break through for Courtney Deifel to get to the World Series and return there. She used to go there as a player when the Cal was a World Series contender every year, and her sister was a great player at Fresno State, but she hasn't been there as a head coach, and this might be her best chance to get there and break through, but it will not be easy, to your point. That Fayetteville regional is tough. And look, Arizona's got a tough regional with Ole Miss. With Jamie Traxel's done a nice job this year getting them there as a 2-seed. They got a lot of talent there. And then Grand Canyon, maybe we have them as the number 1 best mid-major team in the country. Shannon Hayes has done a fantastic job. Our very own Justin McLeod of D1Softball just reported early on Monday. He signed it looks like he's agreed to a contract extension at Grand Canyon. That's big news because he was going to be a hot name for potential job openings in this coaching carousel, which you guys know very well. Will start very soon, if it's not already. But they're very talented too in that regional. Then Santa Clara, who won the West Coast Conference. So those are 2 fun little regionals that you're right. You can make a case for multiple teams in each of those regionals to get out of there.
Yeah, I mean, we know on the baseball side for sure, but also on the softball side, Arkansas in the postseason, it's just not a perfect match. It's plus, and it a little bit of retracting there. And yeah, I mean, we have a bracket group open now on your website on d1softball.com right now. The link is in the description on the YouTube show and also will be there in the podcast description. This next super regional pairing, I think I'm going to be bullish with one of the teams to possibly knock off one of the national top 8 seeds. I really like Texas Tech this year. The Tallahassee Lubbock Super Regional, I think, could be really interesting if chalk holds. But you look at it, I think that first regional, that Florida State, it could be theirs to lose. Texas Tech right now is kind of my biggest question, because as a casual, my hands up, I don't watch from February to May. But when you look at Nigeri Kennedy in the circle, I don't know if there's many that are better than her. How explosive could a matchup between her and that Seminoles lineup be if chalk holds? Also, I didn't follow Tech for much of the season. How are they kind of outside of the top 8? What could be their one hole on the roster per se?
Well, I just spent a week with them at the Big 12 championships that I covered in Oklahoma City. They outscored the opponents 26-0 on their way to winning the tournament. And I think Jack, and I will say this, we love to criticizing the committee's fun, and then it's the thing to do. I will give the committee credit for them not only to have them host, but to jump Arizona. A lot of times they haven't done that in the past. They jumped Arizona in the seeding, which I agree with, as a 12. And listen, I said this before the selections came out. Whatever top 8 team gets paired with Texas Tech is the big loser. And unfortunately, that's Florida State, which is really not good for me, because that's going to be my pick. That was going to be my pick to win the national title, is Florida State. I think they're loaded. They have an incredible offense. Lonnie Alameda has done a great job. Unlike the baseball team, they've actually won a national title. Nothing against Link. I mean, I love Link Jarrett and Mike Martin Sr., the late great Mike Martin Sr. That's not a knock. Trust me. I'm just saying facts. They've won the national title. But man, to draw Texas Tech, they're clicking, because their offense was kind of up and down most of the year. A lot of new faces. I mean, I think they had like 9 transfers, only 3 returners. So it was basically a brand new team at Texas Tech, and it took a while to gel. But in talking to them this week, I think they're gelling now at the right time. They're going to be at home. They're going to be fired up over there at the Softball Stadium. They've never hosted that regional before. From what I understand, I guess the baseball team's having a down year. So a lot of people have kind of jumped on the softball bandwagon because of Nyjah. There's a lot of 24s on the stands. And she's special. She's the reigning national player of the year. She may not win it this year because of Bri Ellis, but I would argue she is still the best player in college softball. And I will pick her, even though they've got a stacked regional. With Mississippi State, with Raylan Chafin, they beat Texas Tech back in Clearwater in February. So let's not give them this regional just yet. Mississippi State can play. You also have Washington, a brand. I think they're down, but they're a talented player with Alexis DeBoer, who is the daughter of Kalen DeBoer, the Alabama head coach in football, for your college football fans. They lost everybody to the portal a year ago. They're in the tournament. Then you got Brown from the Ivy League, but it won't be easy. I still like Texas Tech to win that regional. And then FSU, they get Auburn for the second year in a row. They get South Florida as the American Conference champions, and then Robert Morris. I think FSU's got too much for Auburn and South Florida in that regional. In fact, I kind of like South Florida maybe to make that regional final.
So Eric, this was going to be my question.
Yes.
I think Auburn's going to win the first game against USF. I think that's
S.J. Garrett, yeah. Okay.
I think that's going to happen. After Auburn loses to Florida State and South Florida gets by Robert Morris, talk me out of putting my entire mortgage on South Florida to win that game.
Ooh.
Because Auburn has one pitcher, and they have if you give one person who can go in the circle, how can I trust you to win a winner go home game? Because she can't throw. She's not going to throw a game at 3 and then throw a game at 8. That's just not going to happen. Like maybe back in the early 2000s and 90s when we didn't have pitch counts in softball, but pitch counts are here to stay and they need to stay.
And even if she does appear twice in the same day, USF would have a good look on her already. Mm-hmm. And with the advanced analytics that we keep improving, after the lineup has already seen her, they have some data on her. Like that could also help the Bulls in a way.
I agree with everything you both have said, except for the part about putting the mortgage. I don't know. I don't endorse that. I don't want to do that. Softball's too wacky. You just never know. So I wouldn't do that part. But everything else, I concur. And South Florida's got their best offense they've had. Normally, they're known for their pitching with Georgina Korick back in the day, Sarah Nevins, and they still have good pitching. But this offense with Josie Foreman and Wilkes, like in the American Conference title game in Tampa, they were down 4-0 to North Texas and came all the way back because they can hit now. So I agree with you. I like South Florida to get to the regional final. I wouldn't put my mortgage up for grab because softball's too wacky, but too random too. But I do like South Florida to get to the regional final there.
But I still don't even know
Florida
that Auburn beats them in the first game. I mean,
no, they're not a lot either.
I mean,
no, I agree.
Because you look at Auburn and they're just this again. This feels like one of those teams where I maybe wish we saw a mid-major instead of an SEC retread.
Well,
like,
here's a great point.
Now
there you go. So there's a great point, Adam. Auburn. You know where Auburn finished in the SEC?
Oh, they finished like dead last, 6-18. Come on, you can't. How are we putting in a 6-18 conference team that barely finished 32-22? You're gonna sit there and tell me that they're more deserving than a mid-major with a more established pitcher? A mid-major with a more established pitcher has a puncher's chance in a game. I look at it's softball, so the numbers are a little different. But if I'm looking at a girl in the circle who's got a 2.79 ERA, I'm not exactly feeling confident in her ability to take the ball and shut down the game and go get me that game. I'm wondering, okay, she's going to get me a couple innings, and then who am I putting in after that? And Auburn doesn't have anybody to put in after her. So they're just going to run up against it and I feel like Auburn could be a day one elimination.
That's funny. I agree with most of you're saying. I always shake my head that softball, we're the only sport that rewards mediocrity. Like we're the only sport where you can finish dead last in a conference and still make the NCAA tournament. Baseball doesn't do that. Now, although I remember there was controversy last year with Florida, right?
Last year, Florida was 2 games over 500, but also the head coach of Charleston, who was formerly the head coach of South Carolina, he came out to the media after they were one of the first 4 left out of the tournament, and he said, I got fired from South Carolina for going 13-17 in the SEC. South Carolina, Florida, and 3 other SEC teams went 13-17 in league play, and they got in. There was 5 13-17 at large out of the SEC last year. But keep going to your point.
No, that's what's so wild, though, because I do think the baseball, it's interesting. It's so different. And then softball, you go 6-18, finish dead last, you're fine. Kentucky finished horrible at the end of the year. I had them as a 3 seed. They were 39 RPI. The committee gave them a 2 seed. What? But the SEC, there's a love of the SEC. You hear about it in football. We saw it a little bit in men's basketball. And heck, you guys cover baseball, so you know about the SEC baseball stuff. But it's the same in softball. It's got, it's the SEC and everybody else. And I think the committee kind of feeds off in that narrative and rewards them maybe too much. I wish, and I've said that I tweeted out, I feel that the system is broken. And I want to mention, and I've said it, it's not the committee. It's just, I'm not talking about the committee because people, that's the easy thing to say. It's the committee. I'm saying it's the system around them and what they have to work with. We've allowed it to enable it to where we can just, hey, it's okay if you put every SEC team in. Why? Like nobody else, no other sport does that. Baseball, I'm sure you guys know this, is the best super conference in college baseball, right, in the country. That doesn't mean you're going to put everybody in the SEC in. So I wish we would do that more in softball and have more, hey, this team finished last. I don't care what their RPI says. But we're too married to this archaic RPI system. So
in baseball, when we're saying the system's broken, it's because we've got athletic directors and people with interest in their team getting into the NCAA tournament on the selection committee. When you're speaking of Florida, they had their AD Scott Strickland on the selection committee last year that helped them get in.
Listen, it's a coincidence. It's a complete coincidence. Northwestern got in here this year with they just so happen to have a person in the room. It's coincidence. Come on, what are you talking about?
That's the biggest tiebreaker when you're deciphering bubble teams, Eric. By the way, both of our teams, I know you big affinity with UCF. I'm here located in Michigan, are in the Austin Regional.
Man.
Michigan's rolling right now. They grabbed that auto bid out of the Big Ten. And how much of a chance do our Knights and Wolverines have at knocking off the big bad Longhorns? And also, I mean, you mentioned it with Kentucky, the 2 seed over there in the Clemson regional, and then Clemson's got to deal with 2 Wildcats in that regional with Northwestern getting in off the bubble, and then they have a local 4 seed thorn in their side in USC Upstate, who I think looks like a quality team on paper too. Do you think that what kind of chance do you think has the chalk for holding for a super regional matchup between Texas and Clemson here?
I'll start with Clemson. I like their draw. They're on fire. They're one of the hottest teams in the country. They just won the ACC tournament. I like them over Kentucky and Northwestern. Upstate is the Big South champion. They're pretty good. But I like Clemson. I think John Rittman's done a great job there overall, though Northwestern, it is pointed out, just beat UCLA 2 out of 3 about a couple of weeks ago. So never to say never. So let's go to Austin. That's one of the toughest regionals there. That is funny.
Loaded.
I forgot you were right. You're a Michigan guy over there in that state. Listen, Michigan, give them credit. I thought this week they played to their potential. When I did my preseason bracketology, I projected them to host. I really thought Michigan would be a Big Ten title contender this year. And for a lot of reasons, it just hasn't panned out. They just haven't gotten the pitching that they thought they would. But but you get a second chance at the Big Ten tournament. And I didn't have them in the field going into the Big Ten tournament. And they go on this run to Bonnie Toll. They win the Big Ten tournament. They beat UCLA. And they're
Oregon
playing on fire. Knocked off Oregon, which at the time I thought would cost them the host spot. Clearly they didn't, but that's a whole other story. But credit to Michigan, man. They played to their potential. And this was the Michigan team I thought we would see all year. So, and then you got UCF, who Cindy Ball-Malone's done a great job. I do call their games to your point. So I wear a lot of hats when that comes to that portion, but they have a young team. They have a top 10 national freshman of the year finalist in Isabella Vega in the circle, who's been fantastic. And they have a young offense with Beth Damon, Sierra Humphreys and company. So they could beat everybody. Texas got a tough draw here. And Texas has been a little wobbly this year. Especially the depth in their pitching is not as good as it was last year, even though it's the same staff for some reason. But that's just the way it is. So UCF Michigan might be I'm looking right here as far as your best games for Friday. That's probably your best Friday game. That's your best Friday game. And UCF Michigan have history from the 2022 regional in Orlando when UCF hosted for the first time in a regional. Adam, you brought up about mid-majors hosting. UCF hosted it for the first time that year and beat Michigan in a dramatic winner's bracket game in 11 innings on a Matty Bejarano walk-off double. Kemal Woodall went 11 innings in that game. And then UCF knocked off Michigan in the regional final. Ashley Griffin, who's still on the UCF team, hit a home run in that ball game. They won the regional. That turned out to be Michigan's Carol Hutchins head coach last game of her career. She would retire in August of that year. Bonnie Toles, the assistant on that staff, got promoted. So there's a storyline there between Michigan and UCF. Caitlin Felton, who's still on the staff as a senior pitcher, has pitched against Michigan. So it's fascinating to see those two teams mixed up with Texas, who played for the national title last year, brings back a good chunk of this team from last year. But there's just been a little kind of last few weeks, there's just been a little like wobbliness there. And I don't know what it is. Maybe they're waiting to flip the switch, or maybe they're vulnerable. I don't know, but we're going to find out.
I know you talked about bus rides. I mean, very short little jaunt bus rides from Orlando and Ann Arbor and, perfect.
I will say this.
Regional matchups.
I will say this. UCF is very excited just to be traveling because that has been a gripe that they always get sent to Tallahassee or Gainesville. So you're not going to hear a peep from them about, oh, man, you sent us to Texas? I mean, I'm not thrilled because I can't go. But I think they're happy with that. And I think that, in talking to them afterwards about that I think it's a sign of respect and growth, another sign that, hey, you're good enough to be a 2 seed. We're not going to try to force you to go in the state. We're going to fly you because you've earned that, if you believe, as a power school. So
you say you can't go, or are you probably going to be Tallahassee, or are you going to Command Center regional weekend?
Command Center, my friend. I'm going to be all over the place. That's wall-to-wall coverage, Zoom pressers, phone calls, recordings. It's wall-to-wall. That's what we're doing.
Eric, I want to ask you a question here. So we talked a little about USC Upstate, and they're frisky. Like, don't forget, this is a team that Alabama beat 1-0 last year in the Tuscaloosa Regional at home. If I'm USC Upstate, I got two pitchers. I got Sierra Manis, the sophomore, and Maddie Drerup, the junior. Who am I sending to the circle against Clemson? Am I sending Drerup out there in an attempt to just get that game out and save Sierra to say I won a conference? Like, I'm genuinely trying to think about this. Which is more valuable for Upstate? To throw Manis against Clemson and hope that she's dominant and hope you can steal 2 runs to win it and that she throws like she threw a year ago? Or do you go Drerup out there, see if she can pull a miracle and save Manis to take on the loser of Kentucky Northwestern and win that tournament game?
I think Chris Hawkins, the head coach at Upstate, he'll go all in. I think he's going to go all in because your best shot, you're going to try to win a regional. And I think your best shot to win the regional in his mind is going to be, let me knock off the top seed right away.
Yeah,
get myself to the winner's bracket.
Because then you can just throw Manis every day, like one game a day, and she's good. Because we saw her get into that trouble last year. You know, she threw the great Oklahoma game, and then she came in and got knocked around for 4 runs against Clemson. And it's just USC Upstate's one of those teams where they have that 1-2 punch at pitching. That's so important when you get into the tournament, because you have to, especially in the regional, if you take that loss on the chin, do you have somebody who can come back and pitch same day?
Agreed. And you make a good case for them. Is if you're looking for a 4 seed to make some noise and get to a regional final like Omaha last year and softball did, this would be a good one, because Upstate's paired up with 2 teams that were two of the last 4 in Northwestern and Kentucky. Or no, Kentucky wasn't. It should have been. I would have had them as the last 4 in. So I would say that's not a bad team because of the 2 arms you mentioned. They could maybe, and I don't know if they'll beat Clemson, but that could scare Clemson. That's a team that could probably fare well out of a loser's bracket because they have the.
This is no longer a Clemson that has the pixie dust of being the new team on the block, the brand new arrival.
Right.
They've been too good for too long. We're bored with them. We want to see Clemson lose at this point. Clemson came in and they were fun. They were exciting. It was, the ACC's doing things. And now it's just like, I've seen Clemson in the tournament every year since they've been a squad. I don't need to see more Clemson winning. Give me USC Upstate.
Wow. I don't know if that's going to happen, but who knows?
I don't know that that's my pick, but that's what I want. That's my heart pick.
There you go. I do find it funny, by the way. I feel like the committee got the college football playoff in their minds when they paired up Clemson and Texas. Because that's the matchup we saw in football.
We all have heart picks, and I think I'm going to take you to one of mine in this next super regional matchup. The Knoxville and Baton Rouge Super should be very, very fun. Knoxville is going to feature a clash of styles. Ohio State with the #1 scoring offense, #1 power hitting team in college softball, along with strong lineups in North Carolina and Miami, Ohio, while the Lady Vols have one of the best in the circle in Carlin Pickens. But speaking of one of the best in the circle, Jordy Ball and her hometown program, Nebraska, she's now healthy. She's had a great year. They are a dangerous 2 seed. How much confidence should we have in the chalk with Tennessee and LSU holding serve and possibly being the super regional matchup here?
I think Baton Rouge is the toughest regional to figure out. LSU's really good. Offensively, it's probably their best offense in the Beth Torina era. Tori Edwards, freshman, top 10 finalist, an awesome player. Nebraska's got Jordy Ball healthy. First time we've seen Jordy Ball in the regional since she was at Oklahoma a couple of years ago. 2-way play star. Will probably be a top 3, top 5. I would rank her there as far as National Player of the Year. Then you got the Big East champs in UConn, 3C. Can we give some shout out to UConn? They're not just baseball and basketball there. They do softball. We got Grace Jenkins who can hit. That's art to me. They're one of the better 3 seeds out there. And then maybe the best 4 seed in the whole bracket in the tournament is Southeast Louisiana. And they're only a 4 probably there because they can bust. Obviously, it's a bus distance to LSU. So that's the only thing I'd say is that's probably going to be a trendy upset pick. And I don't know if I don't like that, because that means that too many people are thinking alike and no one's thinking. So I might still pick LSU. But if that is a trendy upset pick that people are going with Nebraska. I would not. I still think Nebraska doesn't have the depth, but it's not an easy region. And then you mentioned Knoxville, Ohio State, Karen Kumar in her first year. They can hit. Ironically, she was there last year with Miami of Ohio as the head coach. There is a chance that Karen Kumar will be facing her former team in this regional, because Miami of Ohio is in this regional with Mandy Colgate and the new head coach there as a 4 seed. And then Carolina with Kat Rodriguez, one of the best hitters in the country. So you're right. But Tennessee has Carlin Pickens, and I'm going to go with Carlin Pickens, who can throw 78, which basically accounts to about over 100 plus in baseball. And I think Tennessee will win this regional, but it would not surprise me if it went to a game 7, which is if necessary for those that are wondering.
So I guess my concern, if I'm thinking about Tennessee, is if Tennessee gets knocked off and they have to go to somebody other than Pickens, do they have somebody who can throw that second game?
That's a great right.
Because Ohio. So Ohio State's going to handle North Carolina. I think that's going to happen pretty quick.
Ooh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know about that.
Hold on. You don't hit 137 home runs and then get nervous when you go in and
Carolina can hit too, though. That might be the highest scoring game. If you're looking for offense, that could be the game right there.
I don't think they're on the same level here, but we can indeed disagree.
Wow.
I think Ohio State's
Chapel Hill, say your hate mail.
Yeah.
Just got to send it right up the road to Charlotte. We're good. But so
Ohio he's State, in that state.
Yeah. Oh, wow. So Ohio State
call him a Duke fan.
I bleed orange, so go Syracuse. Not great softball, but good, okay football right now. So Ohio State handles North Carolina, goes up against Tennessee on the first on the semifinal. Tennessee handles business. Pickens is good. Ohio State drops down, handles the winner of Ohio, North Carolina, no problem. Comes in, gets a second shot at Pickens, and they smack her around. And now, who is Tennessee turning to, and can you trust them? Because I think that's going to be the thing, is in a long weekend where you're going to see somebody multiple times. Noah talked about it. The hitters are going to win out eventually. The hitters are too good. And if we're talking about a team that was bashing the ball all over the yard this year, like Ohio State, I'm going to be hard-pressed to not trust them to figure it out offensively if they get a second or even third crack at Tennessee.
I would even rephrase it too, is like Tennessee, their strength is in the circle with Pickens, but is their offense, could they go toe-to-toe with Ohio State? How, like, at face value with some of the stats, it's not as powerful of an offense, but how much of that is talented SEC pitching that is keeping down those surface level stats?
I think that's some of that. But Tennessee, they've had some skeletons from previous supers and hosting and all that. They always get tough regionals. I think to answer the question, I think Sage Majecko is going to be the key. She's the number 2 there with Noward. Up and down. They've gone staff committee. I think they have enough maybe in this regional, but I think that's a fair question beyond that. I don't know if they get past an LSU, for example, necessarily, if they get to play them or stuff like that. But yeah, it's fair questions. Defensively, Tennessee's a little leaky at times. That's how you usually beat Pickens. You're not going to hit Pickens, but sometimes if you put enough balls in play, Tennessee tends to make some miscues defensively. So if you want an upset pedigree, that would be it. Ohio State, Carolina could both hit the long ball. Tennessee shut down Ohio State. Actually, it was Virginia that shut them down. Miami, Ohio didn't even get a crack at Tennessee and Pickens last year, and I'd say that because that's who Karen Kumar and her offensive philosophy was against. So it'll be interesting. Polar opposites. I still like Tennessee there.
So we get into the 8-9 super regional path here. Was there any debate if UCLA, I think you talked about it, how you didn't really have an issue with it, but UCLA is the number 9, South Carolina 8th national seed, the final one that gets that direct path through Columbia to OKC. It means a lot because there's 7 SEC teams in that top 8 that all they kind of control their own destiny per se with a home regional, home super regional. And I know that, the UCLA's got to win the regional to begin with. That's kind of been their bugaboo for them in years past in the postseason. This year, I think San Diego State looks like a quality 3, and UC Santa Barbara looks like a good 4 to me. I don't know if you have any more thoughts on the 8-9 debate here, but UCLA, do they have any kind of ghosts in the closet as well? And the Gamecocks, they have a path to OKC right now.
So on D1Softball, we wrote about the fact that 7-10 was pretty narrow. I would have gone. I had UCLA in, but I think clearly their way they limped in, losing 2 out of 3 to Northwestern, losing to Michigan, the Big Ten title game, probably hurt them, probably cost them. I was surprised with South Carolina getting the 8. I would have gone UCLA or LSU over them, but Ashley Chastain's done a great job. They have some metrics that work in their favor. The interesting question is, how does South Carolina handle this? How do they handle the expectations? Now, they got Virginia in their regional. They have good pitching, does the Cavaliers. They have experience. North Florida, congrats to them. They're making it for the first time in program history, ASUN champions. And then Elon. I think Virginia can push South Carolina. I think Virginia can make it go at least if necessary there. And I like UCLA to bounce back if their pitching bounces back. That's been the shocking part to me. I thought UCLA would be led by their pitching and dominant pitching with Tinsley and Terry and the freshman Fisher. And it's not happened the last few weeks. They have struggled off pitching wise. So can they get that back? San Diego State is not afraid of them. San Diego State won this regional a couple of years ago, so they're familiar with it. And then you've got Arizona State with a young pitcher by the name of Kinsey Brown that gives them problems. They will give them problems. Santa Barbara, former Texas A&M head coach and Hall of Famer Joe Evans, getting that program to the tournament for the first time ever. She's now led 4 different NCAA tournament teams to the tournament. So not an easy draw for UCLA, but I think UCLA wins. And I think actually, this sounds weird, if UCLA can get out of that regional, I like him in the supers against South Carolina, even though it's at South Carolina, because the Bruins have been there, done that, whereas South Carolina hasn't. And I just think at the end of the day, with Megan Grant and Woolery and the Bruins, I just think they find a way to get back to Oklahoma City.
I mean, I definitely think I think you nailed it right there. I think although on paper you're looking at this and you say Arizona State, San Diego State, 2 teams right around that top 30 mark on D1 Softball's rankings, UCLA is 3 deep in the circle. You know, you can run out any of those three pitchers and you're going to feel good about it because they've had good, solid years. So you're going to be hard pressed if you're Arizona State or San Diego State that if you say you knock off UCLA on, day 2, you're not going to handle them on day 3 because they're going to have 2 arms to go through and you're only going to have 1. You just don't have that depth of pitching that becomes so important when we get down to it. So although they are a 9 seed, we do. I mean, I kind of like them to take down South Carolina here if South Carolina can get past Virginia. And, again, that depth of pitching loses some of its luster once you get out of the regional until you get to the World Series. But it's always relevant. Pitching depth is always valuable when you get to the postseason.
100% agree.
Eric, I absolutely love your passion for college softball and the insight that you have on some of these teams. My last question, after we've just gone through all the regionals here and you've helped us kind of paint some of these storylines that we're going to see pan out this weekend, I have to put you on the spot. You mentioned Florida State, without seeing the draw, would have been one of your favorite teams to win the national title. I don't need national title, but which top 8 national seed are you most confident gets to Oklahoma City? And maybe the tougher part of the question is which top 8 national seed do you have maybe the least confidence in getting through because maybe they have a tough draw? Maybe you think that for whatever reason, they just might have a tough trip to OKC.
All right. A&M, I think, will get to the World Series. I like their draw. I think they win that easily. I like Oklahoma, obviously. They got a nice draw. I think they go. Florida, I think, goes as well. Then it gets interesting. If Texas gets through its regional, and I don't think it's a lock, but if they do, I do like Texas to get to the World Series if they get through the regional. I think I have concerns about South Carolina. I think I'm going to take UCLA there as the outsider there. And then that Tennessee LSU thing is kind of all over the place. You can make a case for Nebraska there if Jordy Ball gets hot. You can make a case for LSU to get to Oklahoma City if they get through the regional and beat Tennessee for the reasons Adam brought up about, what happens if LSU hits Pickens. LSU has more pitching depth than Tennessee does, but then I also can see Tennessee getting there. So that one is a little more complicated. Arkansas I picked before the year to get to the World Series. The problem is I also picked Arizona. So I'm going to have to make a very difficult decision there potentially, but I don't like Arkansas's draw either. So I got to think about that. That's not easy. And FSU, I do think they win the regional. They might still win the World Series, but the fact that you might have to face Nyjah Kennedy in a best of 3, I don't like your chances there either. So I think there's a chance that we could have multiple double-digit seeds in Oklahoma City for the World Series. How about that?
Spicy.
Which I think the sport needs that. I think the sport needs this. I think I made the comment off cuff because I tend to be a very off cuff and use sarcasm as to make a point. I told my staff, it's like, I have no interest in covering the SEC tournament in Oklahoma City in a few weeks. In other words, if we see a 7 or 8 SEC teams in the World Series, like, that's not good. I know SEC fans will disagree with that, but I would like to see some variety there, and maybe that's the chance there. So I think if LSU can get past their regional, I think they can get to the World Series as a 10. I think Arizona as a 13 can get there because they've beaten Arkansas before and they have the talent. And I definitely think Texas Tech as a 12 can get there. So I'm getting those are right there. If you're looking, off the cuff, outside the top 8, who has the best shot to get Oklahoma City? Those are the teams I just gave.
Outstanding. I appreciate your time. You even gave us, honestly, 25 minutes more than I thought we were going to get out of you, which is crazy. I really do.
You guys press the right buttons. You press the right buttons. Adam pressed the right buttons to get me going. That's for sure.
I appreciate you coming on the platform.
That's why he brings me around, so that way he can seem like he knows a little more.
He helps me with the softball ethos. That's for sure. He's able to carry that between the two of us. But Eric, I appreciate you jumping on the platform and talking some softball shop with us. And you can follow him at Eric Lopez Elo on Twitter and social media. He does great work over there at D1Softball.com and In the Circle podcast. Eric, any parting words, anything that you want to plug? Now is your time. Go ahead, my friend.
Yeah, just keep it D1 Softball. We're going to have full coverage. We're going to have regional previews. We're going to cover all the regionals, and we'll have our staff will be there at the World Series in Oklahoma City. So we're going to cover you all year round. We'll have the coaching carousels about to begin. So we got one of the best in breaking that in Justin McLeod. So we'll break that as well. And he's going to do a great job there. And I'll be on In the Circle podcast. We'll be on, make sure in your favorite podcast places. And we'll be doing wrap-up shows. We'll have guests and everything. And follow me on Eric Lopez. I'll be following all tweeting out a lot of comments and thoughts. And listen, I appreciate you guys giving me the platform. I enjoy your guys' work. Anytime you need me, I'm here for you.
Awesome. I love to hear that. I really do appreciate it. I look forward to talking again soon.
Talk to you guys later, man. Take it easy.
Have a good night. Adam, that was an absolute blast. On the flip side of this episode, we are going to give out our regional picks and super regional picks, but I'm going to plug some of our partners real quick. Edge Boost is the first ever bank account that is built for bettors, ensuring all gambling transactions are approved. There are no usage fees, no minimums. You can earn cashback rewards today. You get 100% approval for all betting deposits. Just go over to sign up today at edgeboost.bet, promo code SGPN. You can deposit $25 and Edge Boost will match that deposit. That is edgeboost.bet, promo code SGPN. And the Preakness is right around the corner. There's no better time to get in on the action than with Naira Bets. Sign up today using the promo code SGPN200 and score a $200 deposit match bonus. Don't wait. Head over right now to nairabets.com, SGPN200, and claim your $200 deposit match bonus today. That is Naira, N-Y-R-A, bets.com/SGPN200. And Underdog Fantasy just now launched their new game called Ladders on their Pick'em platform. You can win up to 500x watching your favorite players climb the ladder. Sign up today with the promo code TCESGPN to claim your special pick, plus first-time deposit offer up to $1,000 in bonus credits. UnderdogFantasy.com, promo code TCESGPN. And we are back here on the college baseball experience. It is our yearly bonus episode for the NCAA Softball Tournament. We're running through the regionals. We just had a great breakdown with a ton of storylines from Eric Lopez of D1Softball. I'm Noah Bieniek. I'm the host of the College Baseball Experience. You might see me in my work over at 11.7 as well. And I'm joined with Adam Pelletier, a former softball coach who's very passionate about the sport as well. It's always a great time being able to do this episode with him every single year. We are hosting, once again, a tournament bracket challenge over on D1Softball.com. The winner, I haven't confirmed the prize with Jake Paquin, who is our manager of the store. It's either going to be a $50 gift card or a TCE baseball merch kit. So it would be like a shirt like I'm wearing right now. It would come in plenty of different school colors. There's a lot of combinations on our store, and a TCE hat. So it's going to be one of those two different packages, 2 different deals, but the winner is going to get a prize. Right now, there's a link in the podcast description and the YouTube description. It's on D1Softball.com, the bracket challenge, TCE SGPN. Nice and simple. But Adam, we're going to run through, and in this challenge, you got to pick the winner and runner-up in each regional pool. You got to pick the winner of the super regionals, and then when we get to the Women's College World Series in Oklahoma City, you got to win. You got to pick the winner and runner-up in each pool, and then the winner of the final series. Let's start in the first regional in College Station. The 1 seed's Texas A&M, the 2 seed's Liberty, the 3 is Marist, and the 4 is St. Francis out of Pennsylvania. Who do you have winning the regional, and who's your runner-up?
I mean, I think it's very clear that we're going to see Texas A&M and Liberty in the final of this regional, and then we're going to see Texas A&M coming out of it. You know, we're not going to see a 1 seed get upset at home at this point in the sport. Liberty might have a punt. Liberty's going to make it fun, and Marist is going to have some fun trying to hit the ball out of the yard. But I don't think anybody's going to be able to hang with Texas A&M at the end of the day, and I definitely don't think Liberty has the horses to take down Texas A&M in the long run, unfortunately.
Yeah, I agree with you. I got the Aggies and Flames in that regional final, and Texas A&M advancing to what would be a College Station Super Regional. Moving down the left side portion of the bracket here, the 16 overall seed is Oregon. They're hosting the regional against the 2 and a former Pac-12 foe in Stanford. The 3 seed is Binghamton, and the 4 seed is Weber State. I have Stanford coming out of the regional as the 2. I thought Eric Lopez made some great points on this Cardinal team. They were my pick prior to talking to him. I kind of used his insight to confirm that. I had the Ducks as the runner-up in their own regional. Adam, is that bold?
Yeah, I think that's that. Is it bold? No, I don't think it's that bold. I think that's the accurate answer. Just because when you look at Stanford, you know, they did go through that Big Ten gauntlet, so they've definitely got a little bit more bloodied than Oregon did coming out of the Pac-12. So Oregon is a traditional power, getting some of that juice, but I really trust Stanford in the long run. So I think it's going to be Stanford winning that and coming out of that. And I think it's going to be, coming out of Stanford, coming out of the bracket, and Oregon is going to be the runner-up.
The next regional below it on the left side there on the D1 interface here is the 9 overall seed UCLA in that Los Angeles regional. Arizona State's the 2 seed, San Diego State's the 3 seed, and UC Santa Barbara is the 4. I think the UCLA pitching has been not consistent for much of the year, but the talent's there. I think the lineup's good enough. I think UCLA wins this regional. And San Diego State, I think I like them a little bit more than Arizona State to be my runner-up. I like the Gauchos too. They could be feisty here. We've seen UCLA really have some hiccups in regionals in the past, but I'll go UCLA as my winner, San Diego State as my runner-up. Adam, who do you have coming out of LA?
Yeah, I think that's going to be it. I think UCLA, like we talked about with Eric, it's just they're so deep in the circle that even if they do drop one for some reason, they're going to be able to come back with a fresh arm and be set, and they can throw 3 different looks at you. And I just think San Diego State's been on that big stage before, more so than Arizona State. So UCLA is getting out of this region, and I think they're going to be dangerous as we head into the super regionals. So give me San Diego State as the runner-up.
The Columbia regional consists of the number 8 overall seed South Carolina. They are hosting this against the 2 seed Virginia, the 3 seed North Florida, and the 4 here is Elon. Adam, your winner of the pool and the runner-up here.
So my anti-SEC bias is going to show a little bit here. I think Virginia can pull this one out. Virginia's had some tough losses, some tight games. You know, they've played people like Clemson tight. They've had some big wins against Virginia Tech. And I think that they're really a battle-tested team, and that's what you want going in here. So as much as people are going to try to say, oh, South Carolina, SEC, this, that, the other thing, I'm going to rock and roll with Virginia making it out of this one here, and South Carolina is going to be the runner-up in their own bracket for our first upset in the regional.
All right. Disagreement's not a bad thing. I stuck with the chalk. I went with the SEC and this, that, or that theory. I'm going to go with the home team, and I think that sets up a really cool super regional matchup that you just don't really see too often. UCLA heading over to the Atlantic coast to face the Gamecocks there. But yeah, I got South Carolina winning it. UVA as my runner-up. I think that will be a competitive regional. Next up on the left side here is the Tallahassee regional, where Florida State is your host and 1 seed. Auburn's the 2, South Florida is the 3, and Robert Morris is the 4. Adam, by us talking in our conversation with Eric, I was picking up maybe what you were putting down. Do you have the Bulls being in that regional final?
I do. I just think that although I think South Florida is probably going to drop the first game to Florida State, I'm going to be hard-pressed to think that Auburn's going to beat them, especially if Auburn has to play 2 on the same day. In softball, when you're looking at playing 2 in the same day, when you're looking at having to go to your second pitcher, that's where you can really get exposed, because you can find one pitcher to step into the circle and really deliver a strong performance to get you through things. Finding 2 pitchers who can go to the distance in the playoffs is even harder. South Florida has 2 pitchers. Auburn has 1. Auburn's 1 pitcher is innings workhorse, but she's not going to win you a game necessarily. So I think it's Florida State and South Florida in that championship, in that regional. And I think it's Florida State ultimately moving on.
For clarity, the Auburn USF game 1, you're calling for Auburn to win that game?
Yeah, I think Auburn's going to take that game. Then they're going to lose the Florida State game.
Okay.
On day 2, and then they have to play again that night. So it's a 3:00 and an 8:00. So they're going to lose the 3:00, and then they're going to lose the 8:00, and they're going to be done for the turn, and they're going to be done for the weekend.
All right. Just a bad Saturday. I agree with you. I have the Seminoles coming out of the Tallahassee regional, and I have USF as my runner-up in this regional as well. The Lubbock regional consists of Texas Tech, who's the 12th overall seed. They swept the Big 12 this year with the regular season and conference tournament titles. They are the host in Lubbock. That place can get crazy in postseason diamond sports atmospheres. I know the baseball program is really good, and they were consistent in the 2010s under Tim Tadlock. And Eric Lopez was saying that, that city, that fan base is really rallying around the softball team. They're getting excited about the hype with Nigeria Kennedy. I have them coming out of the regional, which consists of the 2 seed Mississippi State, the 3 seed Washington, and the 4 seed Brown. I'm going to go with Hail State as my runner-up here. Adam, do you agree or disagree?
I got to agree. I think Washington is – we have this problem in softball where we just assume that they're a legacy program. They're going to be great. They're this, that, the other thing. It's Washington. Of course, they're going to be fine. I don't think Washington's going to be fine. I think Mississippi State's going to ultimately come out of this one. They've had a tougher regular season schedule. But Texas Tech is going to take this region without much sweat.
The Fayetteville regional has plenty of storylines here. Arkansas is the 1 seed. They're hosting this thing, but that does not mean by any sorts that they are advancing out of the Fayetteville regional, where Oklahoma State, who's been a consistent, really top-tier team in NCAA softball, they're the 2 seed. They've kind of underperformed this year, but they are right there, and if they play good ball this weekend, they could possibly come out. The 3 seed's Indiana, and the 4 seed is St. Louis, who has a short bus trip to Fayetteville. Adam, who do you have winning this regional and being the runner-up in the regional final?
I got Arkansas and I got Oklahoma State in the regional final, and I think Arkansas is going to ultimately take it. I mean, they played a tough SEC schedule. They earned that 4 seed. They're a very strong squad. I'm going to be hard-pressed to pick against a top 4 team in the NCAA tournament, regardless of how much potential I see in an Indiana, in an Oklahoma State, or even the friskiness of a St. Louis. It's just you can't pick against the dominant teams. The dominant teams are just so dominant, and they're dominant for a reason.
In the Tucson regional, The 1 seed here is Arizona. They're hosting this thing, but the 2 is Ole Miss out of the SEC. The 3 seed's Grand Canyon. The 4 seed's Santa Clara. I had Arizona winning this regional prior to our conversation with Eric Lopez. You can check that out on the full episode that we did here. I have switched my runner-up. I originally had Ole Miss, but he sold me on these Lopes. And I love that the coach just recently signed an extension prior to the NCAA tournament. That means that he's no longer like on the board. He's no longer possibly shopping his name around with his agent, looking for one of those top tier jobs. He's raised that buyout for this program for possibly next year or the year after that, where a big time program might come calling his name. I think that Grand Canyon is going to be really competitive here. They're going to possibly be sleeping in their own beds, being from Phoenix as well. Give me Arizona and Grand Canyon as my runner-up. Adam, I'm curious where you're going in this region.
I mean, I'm right there with you. I think it's going to be Arizona and Grand Canyon, but I think Grand Canyon's going to find a way to pull this out. When you look at what happened earlier this year, they played Arizona tough 7-3 at home in their only matchup. You know, as you look up and down their schedule, they played Florida tough. They lost to Florida 6-4. They played Oregon to 4-0. And they lost to Wichita State 4-1. And then they had a couple less than savory losses to Tarleton 3-0 and 5-2. So I don't love those Tarleton losses. But outside of that, this is a team that handled business up and down the roster. 4-0 win, or up and down the schedule, 4-0 win against Arizona State in a one-off midweek, and a 9-5 win against Washington. This is a Grand Canyon team that's been poised to do big things. Grand Canyon's put an investment in their athletics across the board, and we've seen them have success in college basketball, and I think softball's been a big bright spot for them as well. So I think that this Grand Canyon team at home is going to really shock some people going up against Arizona. So give me Grand Canyon coming out of this region.
We'll shift to the top right portion of the NCAA softball tournament bracket in 2025. The Gainesville regional. Florida is the number 3 overall seed. They'll see the darling of the NCAA tournament this year in Mercer making their first program appearance in history. The Florida Atlantic Owls is the 2 seed, a strong 2 from the Sunshine State there as well. And the 3 seed is Georgia Tech. I'm going to go with Gators and Owls as my runner-up here. Florida wins the regional. Adam, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, you're going to be hard-pressed to pick against Florida Atlantic and Florida being at the top here. Even if we're looking at Georgia Tech, you know, they're not on the same level as FAU. You know, they're ranked below them in D1Softball's diamond rankings. And I like the Owls a little bit more. You know, Georgia Tech really struggled this year down the stretch. You know, they're 49th in this, and that includes, you know, they lost 6-0 to Pittsburgh. This is a Georgia Tech team that I'm not feeling confident about. So give me Florida and Florida Atlantic in the regional final, and Florida's going to just, you know, Florida's not going to have an issue with this one.
Speaking of not really feeling too confident about a team or a few, the Durham regional was where I kind of picked up, you know, Eric Lopez might not even have, like, he's got some insight on some of these teams, but might not even have the greatest feel of what he thinks is going to happen here. Duke's had some shaky moments this season. Georgia has kind of restructured their philosophy around their play style. Coastal Carolina comes in hot after winning the Sun Belt Conference tournament. They're the 3 seed here, and the 4 seed's the Howard Bison. I want to know what Adam Pelletier thinks here.
I think that this is going to be a showdown between Coastal Carolina and Duke. I think this is a Georgia team that really skated by, like I said earlier, on their reputation. This isn't a Georgia team that really is that. And I do think Coastal Carolina, I think, like I talked about earlier, there's a lot of parity coming in softball, and that's going to be great for the sport. I think Coastal Carolina can handle business here and take care of Duke. Duke's going to come through this. They're going to be a little beat up. They're going to have some trouble down the stretch here. And really, the thing that's going to be the differentiator for me on that Sunday game, I think this is one that is going to go 7. It's just, as I look at Duke as a team that finished, okay. They do have two pitchers in Danny Dragomiller and Cassidy Curd, but neither of them really moved the needle that much for me. I really like Nicole Picone on Coastal Carolina. I think she could be really dangerous in the circle. She was a workhorse through 236 innings, 171 Ks. She could really give them some problems as we head into this. So give me Coastal coming out of this one is my answer.
Who do you have in the runner-up spot?
I think the runner-up is going to be Duke. Georgia and Howard Georgia's a shell of themselves, and Howard isn't going to be able to do, Howard is going to be a good story, but I don't think they're going to have the horses to compete right now.
I went Duke and Georgia. Duke as the regional winner. I don't feel good. I don't have a whole lot of conviction behind either pick there. But yeah, I just that regional was really tricky for me to decide. I'm just going to go chalk. I hate having that cop out, but that's where I'm going to go there. Where I'm not going to go chalk, though, is in this Clemson regional. I think USC Upstate could be that feisty 4 seed this season. I have Clemson winning the regional. USC Upstate, the 4 seed. They may come through the losers bracket here. I like the pitching staff, and I think the offense, granted, coming out of the Big South, some of the offensive stats could be inflated here, but I'm not very sold on either Wildcats team here. Eric was talking about how he thought that Kentucky may have been like a 3 seed this season, and Northwestern was one of those 3 Big Ten teams in the last 4 in that he would have loved for one of those spots to go to a mid-major like you're talking about. Are you agreeing with me, Adam?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's how it's going to go. I think Clemson's going to come out of there. I don't think USC Upstate is quite there yet. Now, if we're having this conversation next year where their pitchers have been through another year, where they've gotten more seasoned and they've been through another tournament slog, now I'm really interested in USC Upstate to win some tournament games and maybe even come out of the regional. But I think they're still a year away from that.
In Austin, there is a loaded regional here that we had some fun talking about. Previewing here, the 1 seed is Texas. They're the host of the regional. UCF comes in from Orlando as the 2 seed out of the Big 12. The 3 seed here is Michigan, who's finished the season kind of, in a groove after winning that Big Ten tournament, knocking off the 1 and 2 seeds in that thing. And then Eastern Illinois is a quality 4 seed here too. I'm curious of where Adam's going here because I don't want to play homerism and put out my pick first. Adam, are you?
You're picking Michigan, Texas? Like we know that's going to happen.
Are you going with Texas out of the regional?
Yes, I am going with Texas out of the regional, and I got UCF following them out of the regional as well. I can't get excited about Michigan. I know they played well in the Big Ten tournament. I just think UCF plays in a stronger conference. And so I think that battle-tested nature is really going to benefit them. They played hard against Arizona, lost by 1 in Game 6 of the Big 12 tournament. They played Oklahoma tough. They hung with them. And they also beat Florida. They split with Florida on the season. And they beat Florida Atlantic as well. So this is a team that's really gone through a tough schedule and is really hung with a lot of teams. So give me UCF as the runner-up in this region behind Texas.
Yeah, I mean, as we see this in college baseball and college softball, a team with big, high hopes in the preseason with some expectations that may get underseeded could become dangerous in the postseason. And that is why I'm going with Michigan as my runner-up, because that also is Texas here. So I'm going to have Texas coming out of the Austin regional with Michigan losing in that regional final. The Knoxville regional could be explosive. There are 3 offensive teams that, can really hit the ball out of the yard. And there's 1 ace that throws harder than anybody else in the country. And she plays for Tennessee. That's Carlin Pickens on the 1 seed here. They're the 7th overall seed this season, national seed. Tennessee is the 1. They're hosting Ohio State, the 2, North Carolina, the 3, Miami, Ohio, the 4. Adam, I'm curious who your regional champ is and who your runner-up is.
I think Tennessee is going to come out of the region. I think there's a case to be made for Ohio State, but at the end of the day, I think just the dominant pitching for Tennessee is really going to be too much trouble for Ohio State. I think Ohio State's going to be the runner-up. I think Ohio State's going to smack the ball all around against UNC and, probably twice because they're going to beat UNC in the opening game and then they're going to play them in the losers game. And I just think that that's going to be where we're at. And so then Ohio State might be able to do some damage a second time around against Tennessee, but I just don't see it happening. So I think it's going to be Tennessee ultimately at the end of the day. The key wild card here is if Ohio State can figure out a way to take Pickens out of the yard, that's going to be it. If they can figure out a way to go long against the Tennessee ace, that's it. Like, that's the ball game. If they can do that, they're set. They're going to win. But I don't think they'll be able to do that.
Yeah, last year I was totally sold down the river with this Tennessee team. I had them as my national championship team. This year, I don't know if the offense is as strong as it was last season. I like the Vols coming out of this regional because I think they'll be able to dictate a lot of their path and their pitching matchups in this thing. Ohio State is, I think, the most dangerous offense of the four, and I have them as my runner-up as well with you. In the Baton Rouge regional, man, I'm sucked into the storyline of we're seeing Jordy Ball back in the NCAA tournament, and I think that when she's healthy and playing at her A game, she's the best player on the field on both sides of the ball. I have Nebraska coming out of the Baton Rouge regional where LSU's the 1 seed. I'm going to have the Tigers as my runner-up. UConn's the 3 seed, and southeastern Louisiana is our 4. Adam, who's your regional champ and who's in the final with them in this regional?
I got LSU coming out of this region, Nebraska the runner-up. I want to get excited about the Northeast softball, but it's just not there yet. And I don't think Sela is there yet either. So give me LSU coming out of this one. That tough SEC schedule is going to benefit them here just because I don't think Nebraska quite has the shoulders to make a difference or make a splash in that.
The 15th overall seed this season is Alabama. They are hosting in the Tuscaloosa Regional the 2 seed Virginia Tech, the 3 seed Belmont, the 4 seed Jackson State. The 2 seed Virginia Tech feels a little bit snubbed here. They were probably the team that you circle that could have deserved a top 16 regional host seed, but they did not get it. So are they going to be motivated coming into T-Town? Adam, who do you have winning this regional?
I got Virginia Tech coming out of this one. I think they're going to beat Alabama ultimately on Sunday when it matters. They might even beat them on Saturday as well. Like we talked about, this is a Virginia Tech team coming in motivated, hungry, and ready to just fire on all cylinders. And Alabama just isn't the Alabama of years past. So give me Virginia Tech coming out of this one. Alabama is the runner-up. Jackson State and Belmont, thank you for coming along. One of y'all will get to win a game at least because you're going to beat somebody in the elimination bracket on Saturday.
Yeah, you'll play each other in the elimination game there. I like the Hokies too. I'm going to go Hokies over Crimson Tide in the regional final there. And we've got the final regional here in Norman. The Oklahoma Sooners, your number 2 national seed this season. They're hosting the 2 California, 3 Omaha, and 4 Boston University. You know, I think the Terriers are a really good quality program in college softball, but I don't know if this season they have one of their best teams. I'm going to go with Oklahoma winning the regional and Cal as my runner-up here. Adam, do you agree?
I think Omaha has a little bit of juice left after last year. So I think it's going to be Oklahoma, but Oklahoma's ultimately going to triumph. I just think Cal's solid. They're good, but I think Omaha has some juice left after last year. But you're not going to stop this Oklahoma team. Like I talked about earlier, they got 3 pitchers they can send to the circle. They have a clear number 1. And if their 2A isn't working, they have 2B. So they'll make it work. They're Oklahoma. You know, they are the sport right now, and they are the definition of success that everybody's striving to.
Before we get to our 8 picks to get to Oklahoma City, I have to tell you about Rhythm, because they are your home right now for AI-backed picks and props. You can dominate the NBA playoffs and the MLB prop market with Rhythm. Building your own model is super easy and simple on their platform, and Rhythm knows that you're going to love it. So that's why they're providing you a 7-day free trial. Go over to Rhythm. They have some amazing deals going on right now. 25% off monthly subscription with promo code SGPN25, or you could get a 50% off annual subscription with the promo code SGPN50. That is Rhythm, spelled RITHMM, promo code SGPN25 or SGPN50. Head over to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm to get your 7-day free trial today. And the college baseball experience is also brought to you by mybookie.ag. We are brought to you by them as they are your place to bet with every sport, whether it includes, darts or the NBA playoffs, plus props for every game. The true degens can also get involved in the MyBookie money bag, where you can get a random future with good value. And plus, MyBookie accepts customers from a ton of locations. Easy deposit. You can lightning fast payouts using crypto as well. Head over to mybookie.ag, promo code TCESGPN to get your 100% deposit match up to $1,000. Terms and conditions apply. That is mybookie.ag, promo code TCESGPN. And SGPN is also partnered up with Circa Resort and Circa Resort and Casino in Las Vegas, as they are giving away the ultimate fantasy football experience for a 12-person league to draft in Vegas and be treated like VIPs for their stay. The winner of this giveaway and experience will receive a 2-night stay at Circa Resort and Casino for the entire 12-person league. That is 6 double king bed rooms. You can hold your draft at a cabana at Stadium Swim with a $5,000 food and beverage credit. You get limo transportation to and from the airport as well, a welcome party at Legacy Club for the league when you arrive, a reservation at the world's largest sports book with $500 in beverage credit for the entire league, a 2-hour open bar package for the league at Overhang Bar, and the contest runs from May 5th to June 30th. So there's still plenty of time for you to go over there and enter at sportsgamblingpodcast.com/circa. That is sportsgamblingpodcast.com/CIRCA. And we're back here on the college baseball experience. It is the special bonus episode where we're picking the final 8 teams in Oklahoma City for the Women's College World Series. Always fun chopping up, talking about NCAA softball with my friend Adam over at SGPN. He does plenty of things. He's got his paws on everything in the Sports Gambling Podcast Network when it comes to the website and even fantasy football and even some niche football leagues as well. But I want to know what Adam, the former softball coach, which 8 teams he thinks are going to get to the destination that every softball coach circles at the beginning of the season when you're playing in Division I, Oklahoma City. Go ahead, run through who your super regional matchup is, and then who you have getting to OKC there.
So we'll start in the upper left, Texas A&M and Stanford. Texas A&M is going to come out of this one. I think Stanford's good. I just don't think they have the horses to hang with Texas A&M. That's going to be a tough one. Working our way down, UCLA and Virginia. UCLA just has the depth of pitching that I really like in a matchup like this in a best of 3. So UCLA is going to come out of this one without much issue against Virginia, who does upset South Carolina in the regional. But in the supers, UCLA puts us back on track with the chalk. Texas Tech and Florida State. Give me Florida State in this one. Florida State and Lonnie Alameda have been there. They're, a legacy program right now. I think they're going to take down Texas Tech here, despite, Texas Tech being in that 12 spot. Moving on down, Grand Canyon. I really hate this spot because I love Grand Canyon. But they run into Arkansas, and running up against a buzzsaw like Arkansas, there's not going to be a lot of options. They're going to make it tough. I think they'll force a game 3, but it's going to be Arkansas ultimately prevailing. Moving around in the Oklahoma and Virginia Tech, Oklahoma's going to walk through that one again. Virginia Tech, again, just doesn't have the horses to hang here. As we work our way up, Tennessee and LSU, one of these teams beat Texas and beat Oklahoma, and the other team lost 2 out of 3 and 1-0, and that's Tennessee. So Tennessee is the stronger team right now. They played a tough schedule. They took it on the chin in a really tough schedule. These two teams never played each other, which is interesting to me for both being in the tournament. But I think Tennessee ultimately has the edge here. Coming around, Clemson and Texas. Texas has this one running away. Clemson's going to be really tested in their region by USC Upstate. And I think Texas is just going to come out being a lot stronger. And then working our way up, Florida and Coastal Carolina. I love the Chanticleers, but Florida is Florida, and they're going to just run through them as well. So we're going to end up with a fairly chalky final 8, unfortunately, because I do love a good upset. But I think once we get into Oklahoma City, I think we're going to see some great games, and any one of these 8 teams could walk away as champion.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about it. Everybody loves the upset, and even I do as well. But the cream kind of rises to the top, especially in the softball tournament, where I notice a lot of the top 8 seeds get to OKC. There's 1 or 2 that you circle that could have a chance to get there. I have mine where I get cute, but I can totally see how you're kind of rooting for the underdog, but also we understand that when a lot of the top programs and teams get to OKC, the product gets really good at the end of the year, and that's what everybody's rooting for, because we want the sport to grow and get more eyeballs on it, and there's no better way to do that than get some of the bigger brands and teams there. I have A&M over Stanford. I have UCLA going to Columbia, South Carolina, and winning that super regional. I have Texas Tech. I think that in a 3-game setting where I can't predict what the coach is going to do in that super regional. And plus, if you throw her game 1, game 2, Nigeri Kennedy, I'm talking about, maybe you win 2, but Florida State's got a really quality lineup there. I'm definitely not overlooking them at all, but I like the Red Raiders. I think they've got some good program momentum behind a true star player there. I'm going to go Arkansas over Arizona. They knock down that wall. They get to OKC. I went in Florida over Duke in one super regional matchup there. I went with Texas over Clemson. I also picked Nebraska as one of my not top 8 seeds to get to OKC. Same kind of story with Texas Tech. I'm rooting for Nebraska. I think they've got some real star power there with Jordy Ball in the circle. And I really do think that she can be the best player on the diamond at any given time when she is playing. And then I go with Oklahoma going over Virginia Tech. So that would set up in OKC, Jordy Ball against the Oklahoma, her former program and team in OKC, which would, that would be outstanding. So my first pool is Texas A&M, UCLA, Texas Tech, and Arkansas. I have the Aggies outlasting Tech as my runner-up there. Aggies win, Tech runner-up. And then bracket 2, I have Oklahoma winning that first game against their former pitcher. But I think that with the way that OKC is structured, Ball will be able to throw quite often because there is some rest baked into the schedule here. And I think Nebraska has a chance to to be back in that bracket pool final over Florida and Texas. So I'm going cute with both teams that I like a little bit more bullishly than some of the top 8 seeds. Texas Tech, Nebraska as my runner-ups. Nebraska's 50-1 to win the national title this season. Tech is 55-1. Like I said, if they're able to dictate how the schedule goes, they'll have their aces in the circle for a lot of the way through the super regional and in OKC. So I think those are reasonable shots. But I have Oklahoma and Texas A&M in my final. The Sooners, they're going for 5 straight national titles. They're 2-1 to win it right now. And Texas A&M is 6-1 to win it. I'm going with Oklahoma. I think that we missed out on this game in this SEC tournament final because of the rain and I mean, just it totally wiped out the rest of the weekend there. I think Oklahoma makes a statement once again because a lot of people in Texas A&M got that 1 seed. They had the better resume, but I think the Sooners kind of proved that, the dynasty and the program is going to continue to roll on. Adam, I'm curious who you have in your bracket final, who's going to be runner-ups in some of these OKC brackets here.
I can't even begin to pick, but they're the champ until you beat them, and I think Oklahoma's going to be there, and I'd be hard pressed to pick against Texas A&M. If you wanted me to pick somebody, it would be Tennessee, though, just because of how strong and how good they've been, and the games that they've won, and how just the gauntlet they've been through. So.
Okay.
I think it's likely we have an SEC team against Oklahoma. That would be my prediction.
This softball season feels a lot like 2021 college basketball, where Gonzaga and Baylor were going to play each other on the regular season schedule. I believe it was Baylor who had some COVID complications and the game was canceled, but those were the two best teams the entire way through, didn't play each other, and it came to a culmination in the national championship game, and Baylor kind of spanked them in that game. I'm not necessarily predicting Oklahoma to pull off a 2-game sweep over A&M. I think these will be competitive games in a really, really fun series to watch. But I'm going Sooners there. Adam, anything else that you want to finish up with? I really do appreciate you coming on. This is always a fun episode because I know you love the game of college softball. My friend, go ahead and plug anything else that you're planning on doing with SGPN prior to the football season.
I don't really have anything else exciting coming up right now. Just make sure you stay tuned to all our NFL content as the schedule gets ready to drop. Just stay tuned to SGPN. We got a little bit of everything for you as we head into the summer. We got you covered. And as always, just let it ride.
Yeah, his tag is his name, Adam Pelletier. You can find me on social media at NoahB77_ because I'll be, paying attention to the softball, but also just live tweeting everything that I'm experiencing throughout the college baseball postseason run. Got some travel plans going that I'm really excited about. You can follow the show at TCE on SGPN because we will be following the college baseball postseason daily throughout the chase to the national championship in Omaha there. But yeah, this was a lot of fun, and you can subscribe to this channel because like I said, we will be here routinely during the postseason stretch. The YouTube channel, hit subscribe, like this video if you really love this content, because the platform is here for anybody that really wants to start the college softball experience. So, go over there, podcast platforms, like, rate, review, subscribe, wherever you download your podcasts, because the college baseball experience and the college experience in general is uploading quality content all throughout the summer, as Colby will be having 136 team previews in college football FBS this season, and he also will be previewing every FCS college football conference as well this preseason. Quality content all the way around in SGPN. That's the only way at SGPN. It's been a lot of fun. Thank you for tuning in to the college softball experience here, the bonus episode for the NCAA tournament. Let it ride, and good luck, my friends, the rest of the season.